All right, good morning, guys. Time now is 7:05 on this Thursday morning. Wanted to go live here on Facebook, on the 10 News app, on YouTube to mainly break down Saturday's storm. But before we get to that, there are reports of ice in the area. This was from the minor system that we had been telling you guys about for a few days. That is proving very slick in the higher elevations there. So there you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that is Bent Mountain. Looks like Highway 221 there, and I'm just pulling up some other things to keep you guys updated here. But yeah, this picture is from Eddie Davis and shows just how slick things are. And this was a brief period of rain and snow, and with temperatures below freezing, you can see just how slick, how icy things have gotten up there on Bent Mountain. This is in no way, shape, or form related to what we've got going on Saturday, but we did just get in, this is brand new information. Grayson County Public Schools closed today. Galax Public Schools 2 hours late, with County Public Schools 2 hours late. I did have a report from somebody that buses were running 2 hours late on Bent Mountain. Let me see if I can find that. I'll get it to you guys. But in the meantime, again, this is nothing to do with Saturday's storm, but it is that brief ribbon of moisture that I had been talking about on the newscast the past few days that unfortunately did lead to some very icy conditions there on Bent Mountain. I do believe we have a crew heading up that way, obviously being as careful as possible so as to not get stuck up on the mountain. But that's the latest as of this morning. The majority of this live stream here is going to be spent talking about the potential winter storm on Saturday, and we've been careful to word it that way, you know, because I think a lot of times expectation and reality are kind of two different things. So the expectation sometimes whenever we mention winter storm is what you see there on the left. You think it's going to be this winter wonderland, right? Nobody ever writes a song about Frosty the Iceman, but that is definitely what we are expecting. I don't foresee us getting a whole lot of snow out of this across the area. But you see, that's the expectation on the left oftentimes. The reality is that it's going to be a wintry sloppiness heading into Saturday morning especially. So that's why we've got that alert day in place. Snow is most likely near and to the north of Interstate 64. South of that point is where we see this mix of sleet, freezing rain, and yes, even rain. Okay, so now that we're within 48 hours of this system, what we can do is we can go hour by hour with Future Tracker and showing you precipitation types, and we can also put some numbers on this thing as well. So let's go ahead and start out with the timing of all of it. This is Friday, 7 p.m., so tomorrow evening, and we're dry. We're mostly cloudy, but we're dry, and so what has to happen is the lower few thousand feet of the atmosphere has to moisten up a little bit. Carol, I'm with you. I would much rather, number one, forecast snow. It's easier to remove snow. It's this icy mess that's just gross, quite frankly. But here we are, 1 o'clock Saturday morning. And because I have a little more control over this, let's take things a little more slowly. I would say after 4, 5, 6 a.m., that's when we're going to start to see things turning more widespread. And this is Saturday. And where you see that pink, that's going to be your mix of freezing rain and sleet, and we'll talk a little bit about the difference in between the two of those here in just a second. So that's 7 o'clock in the morning. Continuing throughout the morning, you see that sleet and freezing rain are really the dominant precipitation type there. And near and to the north of I-64 is where you see that better potential for snow developing throughout the first half of the day. I'm going to fast forward things here to 1 p.m. and this is why forecast models are just guidance, right? So it's showing all this rain. And yes, I do think there will be just plain old cold rain, basically south of Lynchburg and Roanoke by 1 p.m. But I do think there's still going to be some pockets of freezing rain by 1 p.m. with still snow north of Interstate 64 as you're heading to the Shenandoah Valley. But notice west of Interstate 77, we're going to start to turn dry by Saturday afternoon. That is one thing that has changed since earlier this week, is that this thing looks like it's going to move a little more quickly in the grand scheme of things. So as we press forward toward 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m., we're mostly dry. And at that point, pardon me, my hope is that most of us are going to be above freezing. So this is not the kind of system that is going to keep you indoors for days. This is not a snowstorm. It is going to be rough on the road Saturday morning. I mean, if this is any indication from this morning where we had just a brief skiff of snow on Bent Mountain, if that's any indication, then Saturday is going to be pretty tricky out there, especially through the first half of the day. But I don't want you guys thinking that you're going to have cabin fever and you're going to be inside from Saturday through next Tuesday, next Wednesday. It's just not necessarily going to be the case. Now, because the legend here was kind of cut off there with our split screen that we've got, I'll show you guys what we're expecting. So the blue here is anywhere from nothing to 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. The pink is 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. So that's our forecast as far as the ice is concerned. This is prior to things changing over to rain and drying out. The 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, I'll show you why that matters here in just a little bit. Freezing rain is one of the things that we dislike forecasting, and this may seem kind of silly, but I think it's kind of a good example of the difference between freezing rain and sleet. Freezing rain is what clings onto things like power lines and trees, whereas sleet just kind of pings, right? So if you think of freezing rain like a glazed donut and sleet like a rainbow sprinkle donut, it kind of helps to visualize things. Again, I know it's kind of silly, but it kind of helped me in the beginning kind of learn the difference between the two and the impacts that they can cause. So for those of us that see 1/10 of an inch to maybe 1/4 of an inch, yeah, icy roads are a given. But once you get to 1/4 of an inch of ice, that adds roughly 500 pounds of weight onto power lines. So I'm not necessarily expecting that we see widespread power outages, but they would be possible Saturday morning into at least the early part of the afternoon. Now, again, there will be some snow and sleet within this storm system, so this kind of takes both into account. And the white that you see there, again, near and to the north of Interstate 64. So if you were to draw a line from Covington to Lexington to the north, that's where you see the chance of 1 to 3 inches plus. On the backside of this storm system, come Sunday, we'll add snow to Pocahontas and to Highland counties, your typical west slope kind of stuff that we talk about pretty often. And then this blue is anywhere from a coating to an inch, just assuming that will be cold enough a few thousand feet up. That's where you could wind up seeing a brief period of snow and sleet. But at the moment, I'm leaning toward the lower end of that, more of a coating than anything else prior to seeing some of that freezing rain. So as you can imagine, and as you can kind of gather, this is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. We're still 48 hours from this, so minor tweaks may be needed. I don't anticipate any major changes to the forecast just because things have come into clearer view. But it looks as though that's what we're going with for right now. Linda, we have never hyped the snow. I will say that. I know there have been plenty of other platforms that have hyped it up and everything, but I've made very, very clear from the beginning that this was not just going to be a snowstorm. And that's not beating my chest or anything because this thing hasn't even happened yet. But we've been extremely careful in how we've worded this, that we've called it a winter storm from the beginning as opposed to a snowstorm because of the multitude of precipitation types that we would see. This is why I emphasize, again, I'm not going to claim to be perfect, especially with an imperfect science. And because, let's face it, I've gotten it wrong before. We're humans. But to find a weather source that is reliable. And I hope that we can be that for you. It's not just out of selfishness. It's just we hope to be that for you. Everything that we give you is an honest approach. So let me hop off that soapbox a little bit. Rodney, as far as Tuesday morning, we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Brandy, as far as Botetourt County, I think you're looking at ice for the most part. You may see a brief period of snow, especially as you go north toward Eagle Rock and places like that, but I think ice is really going to be your main kind of deal there. Now, Rodney had asked about Tuesday morning, and again, I don't want to go moving too far ahead because I don't want to add any confusion. Saturday is kind of our main thing. Sunday, you see some wind, you see some snow on the western slopes and everything. So that'll definitely add accumulation to parts of Bland, Grayson, Western Wythe, Western Greenbrier, Western Pocahontas, and Highland counties. But that'll be on the backside of this thing. The bulk of legit accumulation is going to be up toward the Northeast and New England and places like that. Now, as far as Tuesday is concerned, again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We may start out with a little bit of cold air Tuesday morning, but usually when you have storm systems that go to the north like this one is doing, you're going to see rain take over. So Tuesday morning has the potential to start mixy, but heavy rain is really going to be the dominant thing that we see on Tuesday. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on that because we've got Saturday that's really at the forefront, and I don't want to go adding any kind of confusion, but that's kind of what we're looking at for then. So Rodney, to answer your question, let's see here, Stephanie. Appreciate you there. Stephanie Campbell saying, please no icy. Krista missed this part. What about Allegheny and Covington? So let's kind of backtrack here. Time now is 7:16, and I will let you guys know I have a live update to do at 7:26, so I won't be able to stay on too terribly long. But let's kind of backtrack. I want to start out with the right here, right now. There was a brief little skiff of snow on Bent Mountain, and we had mentioned this over the past couple of days, but it kind of got clouded and everything by what's expected Saturday. So Bent Mountain right now is very icy, according to some folks. We also have some school delays, and this, again, has nothing to do with Saturday's storm. This was a minor thing that moved through last night. Grayson County's closed. Galax City, 2 hours late. Wythe County, 2 hours late. Again, that is this morning. Now, as far as what we expect for Saturday, I'll start you with Friday at 7 p.m., so tomorrow evening, and we're dry. This is 1 o'clock Saturday morning, and we're still dry, but the clouds starting to thicken up, a sign of the moisture increasing. So here we go after 4, 5, 6 a.m., and you see the pink there is an indication of the freezing rain and the sleet that'll be kind of mixing into this storm. But if you go near into the north of Covington, and Krista, to be completely honest with you, Covington's going to be a tricky one because you're right on that borderline of snow versus sleet and freezing rain. So that is quite literally a game of miles as to who's going to see an inch or more of snow and who will see sleet and freezing rain kind of be the dominant thing. But Saturday morning is just going to be plain yucky out there. Let's keep going toward about 9, 10 a.m. and you see that sleet and freezing rain continue to dominate most of the area, and that snow will be most likely north of Interstate 64. And Linda Carr, I'm with you. I kind of wish it would just be snow. Ice is just disgusting. As we get closer to midday in the afternoon, there will be some rain. We've said this for a couple days now. I think Future Tracker's overdoing this a little bit. I still think there will be more pinks showing up and more freezing rain, especially near and to the west of the Parkway. So Floyd, Franklin, Bedford, Amherst, Nelson, Botetourt, Roanoke, Rockbridge, and Allegheny counties. But this may wind up finishing up as just plain old rain. And then by 4 or 5 p.m., this is out of here. So that's one of those things that has changed in the forecast, is that it does look to be a little quicker. As far as freezing rain, ice accumulation, you're looking at the pink there, about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, and this is where things could get icy, where you could see some sporadic power outages. I don't necessarily think this is going to be the storm that cripples you, but it will be icy out there Saturday, at least through midday. And even in the blue, anywhere from a glaze to 1/10 of an inch, a glaze is still slick, right? But it's just you're not going to see power outages out of that. As far as our snow and sleet accumulation, so this is taking two things into account. Your blue is anywhere from a coating to an inch, and I'll be honest with you guys, especially in the New River Valley, the Roanoke Valley, I'm leaning toward that coat, toward that lower end. And in the white is where you can see 1 to 3 inches, and this is just Saturday. So Sunday you see snow on the western slopes, so Snowshoe, Highland County, western Greenbrier County, Mountain Lake, White Top, you'll wind up adding to that Sunday, but as far as Saturday is concerned, that is what you're looking at. So I appreciate you guys spending a little bit of time with us here this morning on Facebook. At least we have more than 170 viewers. I know some folks tuning in on the app, on our website, on YouTube. There's a lot of ways that we can get in touch with you, so we appreciate that. Again, just want to reemphasize that from the very beginning, we have said winter storm and not snowstorm, and we've tried to be very transparent of the many different types of precipitation that we'll see with this thing. I would urge that you follow along for updates here as we go through the next 48 hours. This is not the kind of storm system that's going to leave us crippled and going to leave us inside for days at a time. I think Saturday you're you're inside for the day if you can be. And then by Sunday, you should, for the most part, be good. So it's really a one-day thing that'll inconvenience you and turn potentially dangerous on the roads. I'll be honest about that. But that's just kind of what we're looking at here for this weekend. I've got a live update on the Today Show that's coming up in 5 minutes. Also today at noon, we'll let you know if there's any kind of differences or changes in our thinking by then. But again, appreciate you guys for doing your part to stay weather aware. And we'll be in touch here between now and this weekend as we track the first potential winter storm of the season. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.